Okay, so punching holes, very simple. Wooden mallet and some type of punching tool. If I'm going to punch a bunch of holes, I usually generally use something like this. If I'm only going to punch one or two, I'll use this type of an awl. And I'll just start right back here at the edge of my welt. Find the center for this. Punch it one time, and that's going to be all my stitches right there at once. I've got to punch all the way through both of those pieces of leather, okay? And I did. So that's all the stitches for that side at one time. Like this, and stay in between there. Okay, all the way through. Now we've got all of our stitch holes punched. Now all that's left to do is stitch the leather. So let's talk about that next. All right, so the next step is sewing up the leather. And the question becomes, what are we going to sew it up with? Well, first of all, we have to have some type of a thread that we're going to use to sew it up with. And we could use some type of an artificial sinew waxed linen type thread like this, works fine, that you can buy commercially. Or you can just use some type of bank line of a diameter that will work for you. Number 8, number 12, both of those work really well. I prefer bank line most of the time because it's convenient and I can use it for lots and lots of other things. As far as needles go, you can use these small leather needles, and these are a very, very small needle. They come in a package because they're almost set up to be throwaway. But they're very blunt on one end and they have the large eye on the other. And those are made for saddle stitching. And you might have to have a pair of pliers to shove them through the hole, but they work really, really well for that. Or you could just use a stitching awl like this one. You could use a sail needle or a glover's needle. These are glover's needles here, these are glover's needles. And then everybody knows what a sail needle looks like because I carry those all the time. You can use any of those to sew leather with. Just remember that anything with sharp edges on it, like a glover's needle, is really made to pierce and go through the hole one time. Because once you drive it through the hole another time, it's so sharp that it will cut the threads that you put through the hole the first time. If you're going to double stitch something, you really want to use a blunt leather needle like this one that has almost no sharpness to it at all. It's just made to go through a pre-punched hole and has a large eye to put your thread through. So those are what I would recommend if you're going to saddle stitch. If you're going to do any other type of a stitch, you can use just about anything you want. Like I said, I prefer, just for down and dirty sake, to use this stitching awl that's got bank line on it. It works the best for me. Now I've got my piece of work set up in a stitching pony. I have a video on building this stitching pony, and it's just held down to my bench with holdfast. It's made to work on a shave horse, woodcraft bench, picnic table bench. Anything that has holes drilled in it for a holdfast will work for this. But it works really good if you're working off a woodcraft bench or a shave horse as well, because that's what it was built for. Now I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to start to stitch this up, which means I'm going to come through and I'm going to pull my stitch. The first stitch is going to come all the way through, just like this. So I'm going to pull this one all the way out because I need that tag end. And then I'm going to pull enough through here to be able to feed all of my loops. Then I'm going to come back through and come through this side and pull a loop in it and feed my tag through the loop. And I've done a video on this before, so this is nothing new and no new information for anyone. Anybody can go watch that video and you'll understand how to do this. And I just go back and forth a couple times in that first hole, and then I start to sew down the piece. So we'll get this thing sewn up with this stitching awl, and then we'll get back to you. But this just gives you an idea of the things that you need to be able to sew your leather together, because that's one of the operations you're going to have to perform, is being able to sew this leather up as well. All right, so once you finish that up, you can pull that dude out of the stitching pony and then just take and burn your exposed ends back, and we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, so we've got our axe covered, basically complete as far as all that stuff goes. We've got a false seam here on both sides. so that the axe can slide in from the bottom just like this and sit like this. Now we want to kind of clean this up and dress it up. And the easiest way I found to do that really is with a sanding belt, but you could do it with any kind of a grit that would polish that down. And you can also get things that will edge the leather, like this tool here. You could make them, or that will burnish the leather like this. Something like this could easily be made on a pole lathe that will actually burnish the edges of your leather like this to polish it up. But I find that it's pretty simple to do a lot of this stuff just on a sanding belt real quick, and then pack it really good with fixing wax for a preservative. Okay, so I've gone through here now and I have dressed this on a sanding belt just to clean everything up and even everything up and make it look a little bit more presentable. Now I could go through here with this edging tool and I could edge this thing just like this, and that's just going to knock any of the high edges off. And this is not a necessary process. It just cleans the leather up a little bit for you, makes it look a little neater. And we would take that edging tool around all of our edges, and you could make this tool. I bought this one somewhere, but you could make this tool pretty easy. It's nothing more than a small chisel grind on a tool with a split in it. Now I'm going to come in here with fixing wax, and I'm just going to dose this thing down really good on this edge and rub it into the leather really, really hard. And you could buff this in after the fact if you wanted to, or you can just rub the stuff in really, really good and heat it up. It's up to you. But this will really help waterproof the front end of this thing, but it'll also dress that leather and just keep it nice and supple and soft. And when you get that part done, then you really need to think about, if you weren't going to put a snap or some type of a buckle closure on it to begin with, which like I told you, I'm not a big fan of either one of those. I like just leather straps, toggles, ties, things like that. Now you can think about, what am I going to do to attach this thing to the axe so it doesn't come off if I'm walking around with it. If you're just going to lay this thing in a tool tote or something like that, you don't really have to do anything to it. But if you're going to try to carry it around with you, then you might want to think about an option of wrapping something around it. So let's look at that real quick. Okay, so we pretty much got this mask completed now. It fits really, really nice. Made out of heavy duty leather. It looks good. It's going to last forever. Now we got to figure out how to attach it in case we want to keep it on the axe while we're walking around. We don't want it to fall off, or it's in our pack or a pack basket, whatever the case may be. And I think for me, I like simple. I really do. I like simple, easy, and easy to replace. So leather thong like this that I can just wax up really good and run through there is the ticket for me. I can punch 2 holes in this thing real quick right there and attach this thing, wrap it around the back of the handle, and it's a no-brainer. So I can just come in here and grab this tool, that same punch tool, and we might need to put just a little bit bigger cutter on there to make that hole plenty big so we can feed a leather thong through it. So we'll go to the biggest size we've got, and again, that's the convenience I like about this tool. Is it's very, very versatile as far as what it can punch and what it can do. All right, so once we have ran our leather through there, now we can just drop the beard in here, just like this, come back behind the pole of the axe and wrap it down. And we can go around the handle again if we want to, or we could go up over the top of where our handle sticks out of the eye, just like that, cross it over, and then just come right back behind that pole and tie it off in a square knot. That's not going anywhere, and it's down and dirty and real simple. No way that's coming off of there for you and your blade be unprotected while you're walking around or whether it's in your pack. Well, folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and I appreciate you joining me out here today for just a quick video in the Sportsman's Workshop series on what tools you may need to manipulate leather and craft items that you may need on the fly or that you may need to repair from leather items you already have. If you want quality leather work and you want to buy it instead of make it, there are several guys out there that make some fantastic leather. Justin Wolf is one of the best out there for sure. And Chris Killinger here in Ohio is also very, very good at leather work. You can find him on the Axe Junkies page as well. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business. For all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.